it's Lee from coloringqueen.net, and today I have Alison Wonderland Coloring Book from Jasmine Becket-Griffith. And I feel like I've been waiting for this book for all my life. Really, it's only been a couple of years, but that's the way I feel because we all know I love Alice. Now, it's in the same format by the same publishers as her previous books, so if you have any of Jasmine's beautiful colouring books, you'll be familiar with the sizing. So we've got this beautiful textured dust jacket on the front cover with one of Jasmine's coloured images. Fold out flap. Thick card cover. And inside we've got 55 illustrations from Jasmine. Now the illustrations are based on obviously Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, but also works that Jasmine herself has been doing over the last 20 odd years. So you can always check out Jasmine's site at Strangeling too, if you want an idea of what the coloured images look like as well. So what I love about Jasmine's work, besides being beautiful, is that there's always a little story attached. So the original painting that you can look up if you want to. And she tells you a bit about how she painted it and her inspiration. Now over the side we've got the beautiful Alice, and you can see that there's dark line art in the foreground and light and finer grey lines in the background with a lovely border around it. Now the paper is off-white and it is 150 GSM according to the publisher. And there we've got Alice and the beautiful princesses. And she did this one at Disney Springs where she's often live. Isn't it gorgeous? And the beautiful little deer. And keeping up, this was a little illustration, only 4x6, that she did for her Alice the Wonderland Oracle. Isn't it gorgeous with the little melted clock there and the really dark lines, super easy to see. And here we've got Daydreaming Wonderland, and we've got the Cheshire Cat in the background in a lighter grey line, and then Alice is in the front in a darker line. And this was intentionally painted for her Alice in Wonderland Oracle deck. So we've got the looking glass insects, and we've got a few elements that are in a light grey in the background, and then most of them are in a dark black. So these are the looking glass insects from Through the Looking Glass, where Alice encounters such critters as the rocking horse fly, snapdragon fly, and bread and butterfly. I really must read it again. And then we've got the lovely light grey in that background, and you get a really painterly look when you've got these different coloured line arts. This is one of Jasmine's favourites, which is fourth in her sub-series of Alice in Other Lands. Isn't it adorable? We've got tea party treats here. So cupcakes and strawberries. Oh, looks divine. But Jasmine apparently doesn't have much of a sweet tooth herself. Blueberries and strawberries were painted based on the breakfast that she had in the morning that she painted this piece. Now we've got Painting the Roses Red, and we've got a background of roses in a lighter dull black, and then we've actually got grey line art as well here, and then the darker black lines at the front. And of course the Cheshire Cat makes a cameo appearance in this one. I love the Cheshire Cat. I love mischievous cats, that's why I like Millie, who often looks like that. I know she looks sweet and cuddly on camera, but she really doesn't like being brushed, hence the scratches on my hands at the moment. Yes, she drew blood on me yesterday. She looks sweet and fluffy, but she's a bit more Cheshire Cat. And here we've got the Cheshire Cat Cuddle. He looks pretty cuddly, but there's a glint of mischief in those eyes. Yeah, Millie's got a bit of a glint in her eyes. I don't know whether it's mischief. We've got the Cheshire Clock. So her Cheshire Cat is actually based loosely on one of her own kittens, who is a fluffy Maine Coon rescue named Mama Wolf. So that's why it looks so fluffy. Maine Coons are so beautiful. And there's a lighter dull black, and in some cases it's quite sketchy and more of a dark grey really, for the stripes there and for the Roman numerals. Then this is Alice in a Bosch landscape, which celebrates her love of Alice and Renaissance art. We've got fine lines in the background there with a light grey, and even a variation in the light grey. So that's light grey, and then this one is absolutely lighter for the clouds. So you're getting this real change in look due to the line colouring. Alice in the Pool of Tears. And there's 55 illustrations in this book, and it's 104 pages. Got lighter grey here in the background, finer lines here for the pool, and lighter grey for some of them, and then dark black lines. I think everyone's experienced their own pool of tears at some time. And here we've got the White Rabbit resurrected. And it's one of her skulls with eerily living eyes. I prefer my rabbits to have big fluffy ears, so I'm going to quickly say goodbye. We've got Alice's Tea Party, and these are unique oval portraits that she did for the Pop Gallery. And she says this painting shows a thoughtful or bored Alice with a sweet dreamy look about her. I think she's looking thoughtful. She's deciding whether she'll have an English breakfast or an Earl Grey tea. And then Alice on the swing. Look at that cute little bunny. And there's the Cheshire Cat. And there's the Cheshire Cat again. He's in there twice playing cards. And look at that hairdo on Alice. We've got the lighter grey line art as well. Then we've got Alice again in a neo-Victorian inspired steampunk and clockwork elements. We've certainly got it all. We've got the different shape for a start, and it's quite a small image compared to most of Jasmine's, with a lot of smaller little elements on it. So it might not be the best one if you have problems with visuals, but there's plenty of other pictures that are bigger. And then we've got these light grey elements here, and virtually sketchy on the stripes on her stockings there. And it's only her hair and her face that's actually really quite dark, as well as the frame and these little elements on the border. So we've got the White Queen with the unicorn. So there's not a lot of detail on the unicorn horn there, so I guess you can do whatever you like. And again, it's in the oval shape, so it makes it actually quite a small picture, especially might be a bit hard to see some of these light grey elements here, but then you've got these little fine lines around here too that might be difficult if you've got a visual impairment. Might need to crack open the magnifying lamp. Then we've got the Red Queen, same format in the oval with light grey fine lines here behind. Different hairstyle. We've got Alison Lewis. So this is showing or an interpretation of Alice with her creator. And we've got the light grey wallpaper background there, and Alice laying on the couch. So as Jasmine says, this being your colouring book, you can keep it vintage or contemporise it with a full spectrum of colour, whatever you fancy. So Alice again with the monsters, and we've got this light grey background here, and then super fine and light really in the background. Got Alice in a Dali dress. And so this is from her art history inspirational period with some Salvador Dali references there. So very different interpretation of Alice in Wonderland. And then we've got Alice with the Van Eyck portrait, which is also part of her sub-series. We've got the Cheshire Cat there. This lighter grey format in the back for the chandelier and the mirror. So very different. There's Alice in a Da Vinci portrait, and she's got a Mona Lisa smile happening. And it's something with Alice in Wonderland and Renaissance art that Jasmine is interpreting here for us. And she's got lighter grey again in that background. And her kitty is making lots of appearances in this book as the Cheshire Cat. There's Alice in a Dali dream, so everything is melty with that Dali influence. We've got a little elephant up here and all sorts. So a very different interpretation of Alice in Wonderland, which if you've followed Jasmine's series on Alice in Wonderland and seen her paintings and whatnot, it's kind of what I expected, but not exactly what I expected. So we've got Alice in Wonderland in a Van Gogh painting. So even Alice gets her own Starry Night. And then we've got Alice with Monet's water lilies. So it's really interesting reading her little pieces as well. And you don't have to read them, but I find it interesting to hear what she has to say. It's like when in recipe books, cooks or chefs give us a little bit of interpretation about their recipe. So here, look at Alice's eyelashes. Aren't they divine? She's got her lovely little slithy toes there. They're apparently a cross between a badger and a corkscrew. So she coloured hers to look like a badger, but you can do whatever you like. And as usual with this book, there's some lighter grey as well there in the background. And now we've got Alice in a Klimt dream. So she's getting around all the well-known artists. We've got lots of fine little detail here and some grey lines as well. So maybe she'll get a kiss. We don't know. And then Alice in the Garden of Earthly Delights. So little goblins, birds, critters, and some mushrooms, and of course a Cheshire Cat. The White Rabbit's not making a lot of appearances here. And some really small detail here. Like these little faces here are just tiny tot. There's the Cheshire Cat. And he's in a lighter grey, as is all of this in the foreground or background. Now we've got Alice with the Dormouse. And this one is basically all in black lines except for the flowers on the cup, which are a finer, lighter black. Lots of flowers there to colour in. Alison the Fawn. We've only got a little bit of grey in the background here. If you don't like doing that grey, you could always just do a wash of colour over it. You don't have to follow Jasmine's lines. We've got Alice through a Vermeer glass. So every artist, Alice is getting in on the act. We've got Alice's advice. So originally this was for a card in the Oracle deck, and many people asked her for it, and this is a card, follow your own good advice. And she's got a teacup because you can't give or receive advice without some tea handy. So many of her followers asked her to make that a full-size print when she first did it. And then we've got Alice's prize. And again, this was a small illustration of Alice and the dodo. And she made it a lot bigger for this book. It was only 5 by 7. I don't know how she paints on such a little tiny surface. Clearly nothing wrong with Jasmine's eyes. So this is inspired by Alice in the Garden of Live Flowers. And there's pansies, violets, daisies, roses and tiger lilies in the garden. And there's no grey in this one. Then we've got Alice dreaming. Jasmine feels that this might be the most realistic depiction that she could do of Alice, based on the original story. Then we've got Alison, Queen of Hearts. So worried looking Alice. We've got Alice falling. She doesn't really look like she's falling though, but you can see the items here on an angle, like the Cheshire Cat, and a little bit of grey there for the line up. Alice and the pig. We don't often see that many pigs in colouring books. So this one is from the original Pig and Pepper, and it's all in black with no grey lines there. Then we've got Alice in the mushrooms, and these ones are in grey in the background, and these ones are in black. So you've got a lot of opportunity with this one because there's not a lot of detail on this image, so it's up to you to sort of blend it or do whatever you fancy, go wild with colours or do whatever you like. Then we've got Humpty Dumpty, and again this one is all in black. We've got our lovely wall and tree and Humpty. And then we've got our smaller images with the white rabbit, and Jasmine says that she likes to paint the white rabbit as an actual bunny rather than as the sort of character that we expect with a waistcoat on and glasses. Then we've got Alice down a Darley rabbit hole. I really like this one. I make a very thick bookmark. And Alice Enchanted there with the Cheshire Cat and Jasmine's version of the White Rabbit. And then we've got Alice, two more of Alice. This is a different sort of looking Alice. Her hair is coming down. We've got some grey there in the background and some very lighter elements. And this is a better size for a bookmark. I'm not sure what to do with these ones this size, but I think we all know I probably wouldn't cut it out anyway. Oh, and Alice and the Mad Hatter. There's only a few landscape orientated pictures in this book. So usually Jasmine says she paints female characters, so it's unusual for her to create a male character. And she sort of references that there might be a bit of Tom Petty in this Mad Hatter character. We've got lots of grey little elements in the background there with like a little steampunk or clockwork reference. And it's basically tea and mushrooms. Now here we have Alice and the Handmaidens. And Alice has got her lovely dress on. And we've got the Cheshire Cat over here and Tweedledee and Tweedledum. We've got our artist, and in the background we've got, in a lighter and a finer black or grey for some of it, other paintings, including the White Rabbit and Alice in Wonderland in that one. Now here we have Alice in the Starry Night by Van Gogh, and she looks well suited to that, kind of really suits her, and that's all in a grey line with the village, etc., and black for Alice. And another oval picture. And there is some grey there in the background. And this is also from her Alice in Other Lands series. Now, remember, Jasmine's been painting Alice in Wonderland for a long time and in her own right and at Disney as well. And a lot of this is her interpretation of Alice and not necessarily what you might imagine from other colouring books based on Alice in Wonderland. And I love these different interpretations. It really makes me happy seeing any new interpretation of Alice in Wonderland. Alice and the Frog Footman, and this is originally from her Alice Enchanted show at Disney Springs Pop Gallery. And she says that she actually adores frogs wearing human clothing, so he's partial to the Frog Footman character. And that's all in black with no grey lines there, so another one that's easy to see. And we've got Alison and the Dormouse. And again, this is in a greyer line, and in some parts it's quite sketchy. And Alice is looking very, 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 very not happy. I don't think she wants to snack. And there we have it. Here's some coloured pictures from Jasmine's works. It's very different from my other Alice in Wonderland books, and I really love that about it. If there was one disappointment, I'd like to see some more White Rabbit, but we know rabbits and we know Alice in Wonderland with me, so I guess, you know, that's to be expected. There'll be never enough rabbits for me. But absolutely gorgeous from Jasmine Becket-Griffith. The links to buy are below the video. Until next time, happy colouring.